What's going on YouTube? Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to install an aftermarket radio in your vehicle. So I'll just show you some of the tools and things you're going to need to do this job. So first you're going to need your aftermarket radio, obviously. Then you're going to need some 22 to 16 gauge butt connectors. You're going to need, depending on your car, an antenna adapter. Some cars don't need them, some cars do. My Jeep does. You're going to need an install kit if you're going from like a double DIN head unit style to a single DIN. You're also going to need a connector kit, which will be application specific. So this is also specific to my Jeep. On my Jeep you need a T20, 4 T20s holding the head unit. So it's going to depend on your car, whatever holds your head unit in. Plastic trim tool to remove the trim around the radio. Some crimpers and some wire strippers. So the first thing you're going to do is, you can just do this inside before you even go out to your car, is you're going to wire up your aftermarket head unit wiring harness to your harness that you bought to your stereo connector. So this connector is going to plug into the stock radio connection, and then this one's going to plug into your aftermarket radio. So this is just an easier way of doing things. You can hardwire your aftermarket radio and hardwire it into your factory harness, but if you ever want to put the stock radio back in, it will be a pain in the butt. So this is the easy way to do it. And also you might want a heat gun, because you can, what I did was I bought the butt connectors that have the shrink tubing on them just to keep moisture out, but you don't really need to do that because all the wiring is going to be on the inside of the car. So I'll show you real quick how to hook this up. Basically all you have to do is match the colors on the wires. So as you can see here, I have the yellow from the aftermarket head unit wiring harness going to the adapter harness that will plug into my stock harness. And this just has 3 connections because it has more than one application it can work on. I'm pretty sure this connection is on mine. And then these other 2, you'll just leave the caps in there so they don't short anything out. But you just match all the colors and strip them and crimp them together, which I'll show you guys how to do that. And then once you match up all your colors and have everything together, you'll plug this into the back of your, well, you'll remove your old head unit, plug your new head unit in, and then plug your connector into your stock head unit car wiring harness, and then everything should work. So I'll get you a shot of how to do the wire stripping and the butt connectors. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys how to strip and crimp the wires. The way I like to do this is I like to start at the one end of the harness and work my way over. So you can see here on the harness I'm connecting to, I have the black one done over here. I just like to try and keep all the wires in order so they don't get all tangled. So let's go over here, do one of these purple wires. And on the wires that are the same colors, like this one has a purple with a black stripe, and this one's just all purple, so make sure you pay attention to that, or else you might wire up a speaker backwards, which I don't think it really matters too much. So this one's all purple, and so is this one. So what you're going to do is, this side of the harness actually is pre-stripped, so you just can pull that off and it's already stripped. And you're going to take your butt connector. Like I said, actually these are 22 to 18 gauge. Just twist that end of it a little bit. And then slide it down in the butt connector as far as it will go. And then you'll crimp it. I like these long crimps because you can get good pressure on it. You see how flat that gets. So these crimp them nice and tight. And then you're going to go over here. This side isn't stripped, so you're going to have to strip these. I have these automatic strippers. They make it really easy. And then you're just going to take this end and plug it into this butt connector. So basically you just color match and do all your wire connections. Slide that all the way down in there. Take your crimpers. And then you can go ahead and pull on them a little bit, make sure it's not going to come out. And then take your heat gun and keep it a decent distance away. And you'll see it start to shrink. You can see it shrinks down on there real nice and tight. And this also has like a glue inside to completely seal it off, which also helps the wires from coming undone. If your crimps were a little loose, they shouldn't pull out of there. So then you just do that on all the wires, and once you have all the wires connected, I'll show you where to go from there. Another tip, when you strip the wires, you don't want to strip too much off. Going into a butt connector, that's about all you need. As you can see, it's not long at all. If you strip too much and put it in the butt connector, then it will be poking through the other side, and the other wire won't go in the whole way. So you want to push it in as far as you can, and you'll feel it stop. And then get your crimps on it. And the same thing, what I found with this connector that already had the wires pre-stripped is they strip too much off. So that's too much wire when you're using a butt connector. So you want to cut it down. To about that. Slide it in the end here. Now when you crimp these, make sure you're towards the end of the metal so you get a nice crimp on it. You don't want to crimp on the insulation really, you want to make sure you're on this metal that's in the middle. As you can see, that's in there nice and tight. But like I said, you just keep matching the colors. Some are black and green, and some are just plain green, so you got to make sure you check for that. And as you can see, this one's black and green. It's really hard to see, so you have to look closely and make sure you match all the colors, because one is the negative for the radio, and then the one with the black's usually the negative for the radio, like the black and green, and then the straight green's usually the positive. When you use the butt connectors with like the heat shrink on them, when you do it, you want to try and get about this far away and make sure you go the whole way around to get it shrunk down even on the wires. You want to keep moving it back and forth. Then once it's on there nice and tight, that's how you know you're good. As you can see, it's got a nice tight seal, so that's when you stop putting heat on it. Also, I forgot to mention, if you don't have a heat gun, you could use like a hair dryer or a lighter, or even like a small butane torch. This is a Harbor Freight heat gun. I think they're like $8 to $14 or something like that, so they're not too expensive. It's just something good to keep if you want to use these heatable butt connectors, the shrinkable ones, because if you use a lighter or butane torch and you get too close, it will kind of burn these up and it will look pretty crappy, but if that's all you have, it will work. The finished product here, got them all crimped together. I believe it was 13 connections. If you wanted to, you could like wrap some electrical tape around this and make it look all nice and neat, but if you ever want to take the head unit out of the car and put it in another car, it'd be a pain to get the electrical tape off, so I normally just leave it like this, and it's back where nobody can see it anyways, and it's not going to hurt it. So once you got all that finished up, you can get ready to go out to your car and start removing the head unit. Stuff you can do before you go out and get in the car and start installing is this little cage here is what goes around the radio. These tabs hold it in the side, you have to pry them up, and then you slide this cage off. And then what you're going to do with this is you're going to take it in the install kit. You're going to slide it in here. You're going to slide it down in there, and then you're going to bend the tab so it sits in there. I'll show you. The outer cage all the way back into here. And then what you're going to want to do is go around, and these tabs bend up, and you're going to bend them up, all the ones that you can that are sitting against the plastic the whole way around to hold the cage in place. So I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So as you guys can see here, you want to bend the tabs up against the plastic to hold the cage inside of the plastic. So all the tabs that are towards the inside that are closest to the plastic, you want them to touch against the plastic so the cage is nice and secure in there and can't move around, because this is what your radio is going to slide into, and then these outer holes are what will bolt into the factory spot where the factory radio bolted. So as you can see, you just want to bend all those tabs up so they're touching the plastic to hold the radio in nice and secure, and then you can slide your radio in, which I'm going to wait until I'm out in the car and I'll show you guys. Alright, so now once you're out in your vehicle, what you're going to want to do is figure out how to get your radio out. On the Jeep Grand Cherokees, this piece goes around the radio, and it is held in by clips, so you just pry it out. Go flying off. So as you can see, it just has these little clips on the side there that hold it in. Sorry about the lighting. Those clips hold it in. You just use a nice little plastic pry tool so you don't mess your stuff up. And then around here, it looks like we have 4 Phillips. Or if you didn't have a Phillips, they look like a 7 or 8 mil. So I'm going to remove those. Let me start this thing up and try and get more light on in here for you guys. Alright, so as you can see, this is why I'm replacing my head unit. The display in here doesn't work, so that's why I'm replacing it. This also has steering wheel controls for like the seek and volume buttons. I don't think they're going to work anymore, but you can buy a kit to wire them in, but I'm not really too worried about it. So what I'm going to do is pull out these 4 Phillips heads. Click. So get all these loose. So you're going to want to pull these screws all the way out. And you just got to give it a gentle tug and it'll pop out of there. And then there's going to be, on this car, There's two wiring harness plugs and an antenna plug. The antenna, you just gotta pull that out, which they can be stubborn, and then the plugs, you just depress it and then pull the plugs out like this. And you can see I can do it one-handed here. Yeah, so you pull the plugs out. Now the antennas, I'm probably gonna have to pause it and use both hands to pull that out quick. Alright, so as you can see, I got the antenna undone. Now this is the reason you're gonna need an adapter for your antenna if it looks like this. You'll have to look it up, it's different for all the vehicles. So you go in here in our bag. And our adapter. So here's what most radios take in the back of them, is this style right here. This is a regular one. As you can see on the Jeeps, like in the Dodges, it's not like that, it's just a open end. So what you do is you plug one of these connectors in. I'm not sure which one, you just got to find the right one, and then one of these will go in there, and then this will plug into your head unit, so you'll still have an antenna. If you don't use this kit and you don't have an antenna adapter, you're not going to have any radio signal. So let me get this plugged in and I'll show you what it looks like. As you can see here, this is the one my Jeep takes. So now I'll be able to plug this into the back of the radio and have a radio signal. The reason I have so many different plugs is because it's for a bunch of different applications, so you can just tuck this back out of the way. So that's how that works, and let me get the radio hooked up and I'll show you guys. So the next thing you're going to want to do is take your harness that you got all wired up and figure out which one, because like I said, this is for different vehicles too, is the right one. And you're going to pop this, whatever one's the right one, you're going to pull this little plastic piece out and then plug it into your stock harness. Then plug this one into your radio and just test to make sure everything works on your radio before you go and install it. Here you just pop that out and that exposes the prongs. Whatever the ones you aren't using, you just leave them in there. And the reason I believe that this has this second plug here is for your steering wheel controls. So we don't have that wiring kit, so we're just going to leave this one unplugged back there, and then we're going to plug in our adapter kit into our OEM harness here. You want to make sure you hear it click in. So you hear it click. You can give it a little tug, make sure it's on there. So that's on there. So now you have your harness plugged in there, and then this harness is going to plug into your back of your radio. So you got your radio here. And get it set up here and plug this in. You don't have to clip this in the whole way, just enough that you can test it out, because you're going to have to unplug it. Sorry about this filming. It's hard to do one-handed. Maybe I will have to clip it in. Alright, hang on a second. Alright, so as you can see, I had to plug it in the whole way for this one to turn on. Sometimes you don't have to. You're going to have to unplug it to slide it back through, so it's easier if you don't have to plug it in the whole way, but I did. So right now it's just asking me to set the time. We're going to skip past all this because we're just going to unplug it. We just want to make sure all the speakers are playing and figure it out here. We've got some. This is just like the setup menu. We're just going to go through it and get out of here. We just want to try and get the radio playing, which right now we're hearing static because I don't have my antenna plugged in, so let me plug that in. So I got that plugged in. Let's find a good station here that I can pick up. There we go. So as you can hear, sorry, I don't want to get a copyright. So as you can hear, it was picking up the radio. So now what I'm going to do, since I don't want to get a copyright on this video, is I'm going to pause it, and you're just going to check, make sure all your door speakers are playing, and all your speakers. You just want to make sure all your speakers are working before you go ahead and put it in the whole way. So I'm going to go around, check all my speakers here. As you can see, I'm peeling the plastic cover off now just because I know radio's good and it's gonna work and I'm not gonna have to return it. So I'm gonna go around, listen to all my speakers, make sure they're all working, and then we'll go from there. Alright guys, everything seems good, so what we're going to do now is re-unplug that antenna and unplug the wire harness, and we are going to start installing the install kit, and I'll show you how to do that here after we get this unplugged. Alright, so now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your radio holder that we got set up in the house and run all your harnesses through it, and you're going to screw it in where the factory one screws into place. And then I'll show you where to go from there, because I don't have anybody to help film, so I'm sorry guys that I had to keep cutting off, but I figured this could help some people out, so I'd make it. So it looks like we're going to have to sit this one like this. Whatever way your bolt holes line up is the way it's going to go pretty much. And this cage doesn't matter if it's one way or the other, it's the same side, so the radio will still clip in. So now we're just going to feed our harnesses through this, and I'll get back to you. As you can see, I have the wire harness fed through here, and you just go ahead and put your 4 bolts back in. You can use the stock ones in the stock location with these kits. Everything should be pre-aligned. They have different holes for different applications, but pretty much the holes are only going to line up one way for your vehicle. So next we are going to plug in all of our harnesses and antennas for our radio and slide it into the cage, and you'll hear it pop into place, and then I'll get back to you. I have the radio started in here. Now what you're going to want to do is try and push your harnesses out of the way the best you can so you can slide the radio back easily, which can be kind of a pain because there's going to be a lot of wiring and stuff back there now since you have that harness that you made plus the factory harness. So just tuck it back the best you can, and then try and squeeze the radio up in there. So right now I'm tucking it back in there, and then I'll show you what you're going to listen for when the radio slides in. You'll hear it click into place. I'll show you what it will sound like. Alright, so if you're having trouble getting it back in there, it shouldn't be too hard to push in, so just make sure your harnesses, try and push them out of the way some more, and just take it easy. You don't want to mess up your new radio. So as you can see, I'm having some trouble here because there's so much wiring. So I think the main thing that's hanging me up is that antenna piece because it has so many adapters on it. So let me try and tuck that out of the way. But if you can, just try and buy the single adapter for your car. But I was at Walmart, and this is the only ones they had. So you can get these adapter kits and these radios and everything at pretty much any auto parts store, even Walmart in their stereo section. Then, sorry I didn't get it, I was fighting with it, but when you push it back, you'll hear a click click. And that's just both those tabs locking in that I showed you that we had to pull off, and you'll feel it. It will be in there nice and tight. It won't be moving around. So now that we got that in, what you're going to want to do is, the kit I got comes with different plates, so we had to figure out what plate was it. This is the right one for my Jeep. So let's see here. So basically, one of these plates is going to sit behind here, which I think might be that one. One of these plates will clip into place back here, and then your OE trim will clip over top. Alright guys, so like I said, you take that plastic trim ring and you clip it in here, and then you go ahead with your factory trim piece and you're just going to clip that back into place, and then it looks like stock again basically. I mean, obviously it's aftermarket radio, but there's no gaps or anything. It looks nice and clean. And then I'll show you the basic setup you're going to do for setting your radio up. Now that you got your trim back on, we'll get through the basic setup here. Alright guys, so that's the basic installation on the head unit. I want to thank everybody for watching and subscribing as always. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions on installing your head unit, just leave them down in the comments and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.